All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, welcome to the webinar today. WIDS, or Worldwide Instructional Design System, is a web-based curriculum management system that offers educational institutions a lot of different solutions pertaining to curriculum, whether they're designing or aligning or managing curriculum. We're not a learning management system or an enterprise system or an assessment tool. We are an instructional design system. We were developed in 1994. We're designed by our users, for our users, part of the Wisconsin Technical College System Foundation. Most of our users find that we have a lot of built-in best practices of performance-based learning, and our system was built on that. So if your organization values curriculum, we might have a solution for you. I'm Kim Vasicki. I'll be doing the presentation today, and we'll go ahead and get started looking at one of those different solutions. Today's session is going to look at mapping outcomes for student success. So, curriculum maps. We see them, they have check marks, they're matrices, they're pretty or maybe they're not so pretty. What's in your curriculum map? Are there standards, like external standards, maybe some NATEF for your automotive programming, or NCLEX criteria for your nursing program, or other kinds of standards that are part of an accredited program that you have? Maybe you're a public school system and you need to link to the Common Core, so those are in your curriculum map. Or program outcomes that actually designate the measurables for your program and what you'll assess your students being able to do upon exit of that program. Maybe your college-wide outcomes or core abilities or gen ed outcomes are in your curriculum map. And maybe your courses are in your curriculum map. The WIDS tool does more than paint that pretty picture. When building a comprehensive plan for assessing those outcomes, our tool helps your institution design curriculum, align standards and outcomes, and manage a process for assessment and continuous improvement of student learning. When we talk about designing curriculum, that's really the building block or the platform for starting this curriculum map. So it's designing curriculum is where you can develop and access your organization, your program, and your course curriculum components. Though the process for design is often linear in its approach, it really is very holistic. And in WIDS, you can start at the top by designing organizational outcomes, linking those to program outcomes that you've designed, and then linking the programs to the courses. Yet, once you've linked all of these pieces together, courses actually also link to organizational outcomes, which gives you a more holistic look at your curriculum. Let's look at organizational outcomes, starting at the top. Organizational outcomes might be, at your institution, called general education outcomes. They may be called college-wide outcomes, or core abilities, or core skills. They're global, they're addressed throughout all curriculum, and as accreditors would require, they'll need to be assessed also, and showcasing where that happens is sometimes difficult. Good design would focus on learning. It focuses on outcomes. Here you're going to see that in WIDS, you actually can start designing that organizational information. Might be your information about your college, the accrediting body of your college or your organization. It's designing those outcomes. Here we see a list of organizational outcomes or college-wide outcomes or core abilities. We'll call them core abilities from now on. You can change it to whatever name your college or your organization calls them. They are established, they are approved, and then they are kind of locked down and able to be infused throughout all curriculum. Each organizational outcome or core ability here has a set of criteria that further explain how it's measured or observed, what the student would demonstrate or show as a result through assessment or through a learning experience, how they're meeting that particular, or maybe in this case using that particular outcome. Once you've written your criteria in WIDS, whether it's organizational outcomes or program outcomes or course outcomes, you can repurpose that criteria into the rating scale for a rubric or checklist. Once you've approved and locked down your organizational outcomes, they're ready to be linked and related to your program. Good design will help build great curriculum maps. Programs are really central to that or to your organization. A program module in WIDS will target macro, observable, and measurable outcomes that will be assessed. They'll be linked to external standards like those NATEF we talked about, or the NCLEX criteria, or the Common Core. They'll link to the organizational outcomes that we've already established are core abilities and are already secure and written and approved. And they'll help you design that plan and lead to students' success of learning. Once your once you've set the stage for a program and identified that information in the program, you go ahead and select a set of standards. Built within the WIDS system is the option to build a standards database. Those are often come from public domain, or if you're an accredited program with an accredited program like dental hygiene or something like that, you may have been given a set of standards that you need to address and make sure your curriculum is addressing through the 2 or 4 year program configuration. So you can set the stage of your program by adding those standards and selecting the ones that will be applicable to your very own program. We already wrote core abilities for the organization. Now it's time to infuse those through curriculum. You begin to do that by relating those core abilities and relating those external standards to the program outcomes. To the program itself. Here we've related these outcomes core abilities to our program. Once you've finished relating your various outcomes, you can go ahead and begin designing the program outcomes. Program outcomes, again, you might have 5 or 8, maybe 10 or so outcomes. They're going to be macro. They're going to tell learners what it is that they should be able to do upon exit of the program. Every program outcome will come with a set of strategies for assessment. In this case, it might be a portfolio, it could be a capstone course or a clinical experience or some other kind of strategy. And each outcome will also come with a set of criteria. We already saw how that criteria was repurposed in the organizational outcomes into a rubric. The same would hold true for program outcomes and will also hold true for course outcomes. Here's an example of that rubric. Here we see in blue the outcomes for the program, and below it are some criteria to further kind of flesh out what that means. These will be observables that you might see throughout learning experiences, and when you create it as a rubric in WIDS, you're able to set your own rating values. Here's an example of 2, 1, 0, but it could be a met, not met, it could be a 5 to a 0 scale, it could even be something a little more complex with multiple column rubric values. The beauty is all data can be repurposed. Now it's time to validate those program outcomes. Across the top of this matrix, you're going to see the program outcomes. Here we begin to build a map. In this particular map, we see how the program outcomes link to those standards. The same would be when you see the program outcomes across the top, how do they link to your college core abilities or your organizational gen ed outcomes or organizational outcomes? Here you can see someone, a developer on a project team, has put X's in the boxes that indicate these are where these particular outcomes are being addressed, and these they're linked together. And somewhere along the line we'll see in the courses that have this program outcome linked to it, we'll also see those core abilities as well. So once we put in all of these outcomes, we've linked our organizational outcomes, we've linked our standards, we've written program outcomes, we've written program criteria. The program is solid. We see what goes together. But now it's time to really align that curriculum and build your map out even further. First, you might start with a course list. And courses are also built in WIDS. They use the same design process. You build course outcomes, performance standards, assessment strategies, and you can even build further into the courses learning activities, learning materials, and assessment activities and materials as well. But here we build a course list. Notice here that a course list is going to show its relationship to the program. In this case, I'm building a course for instructional assistant, or a program, excuse me, for instructional assistant, and it has multiple courses. Most of them are child, meaning that they belong to that program. That program would make decisions on links within the course itself, how it's linking to the program outcomes, where each competency in the course is being linked to a program outcome or a core ability, and further kind of shows the map. It explains what's going on in the entire program itself. And there are going to also be associated courses. Those are courses that are not owned by this particular program. So developers on this project team would not be making decisions about this course. The program that actually owns this course would make the decisions on links here. Although it can be associated to this program because it is a required general education course, speech. So therefore it is associated. Now notice here, once I've built my course list, it becomes part of my outcomes map. Down the left side of this particular report or outcome matrix are my program outcomes. Across the top are the courses that are in my course list. And I'm able to actually indicate where this particular program outcome or this or this or this are introduced, are practiced, and assessed. You can see here that in this particular program, many of the outcomes are assessed in this practicum 2. This is the beauty of doing outcome mapping in WIDS. You're able to do leveled mapping, and you can you can just put check marks. You can be as detailed as you need to be, and that is customizable by you. The same would hold true for assigning college-wide outcomes. You're able to look at the courses across the top. These are courses in your program. We already related the core abilities to your program. So now those core abilities, how do they link up to the courses? Well, act responsibly. We see we can infuse that, or we're going to link that to the course guiding and managing behavior. Communicate clearly. We've actually related it or assigned it to 3 courses, which means that the student will have opportunity to demonstrate how they're using that skill. Finally, you also related standards to the program. The program has courses. The courses are across the top. Here are some of the standards that were related to that program. Here again, you're able to actually indicate where a particular standard is being addressed within a course. This becomes helpful later when we do assessment, when we look at maybe third-party assessments or exams where students tend to fall down or fall short. You might look at where that particular standard is addressed in a course. Then you can further look at that course and see what kinds of assessment strategies are in place or what kind of learning activities are teaching a particular concept, and make adjustments so that student success can increase or improve. Once you've designed your program and you've maybe built a program assessment rubric, we showed the rubrics, and now you've got that program assessment rubric, or maybe you even have a rubric for your core abilities at your organizational level. You might have a rubric for each one, critical thinking or act responsibly, and it would be something that would be tied to all the courses or all the programs, and they have to be used within those courses. WIDS has the ability for you to assign program and organizational outcome rubrics to the courses. The rubric will just instantly appear in the course where you assign it. Now that all of your links have been established, your outcomes have been related, and all of the associations are beginning to connect, you can build the reports, and the reports are, in this instance, for outcome mapping, come in the report of a matrix. You can see here there are multiple kinds of reports in WIDS. For the program level, there's a program outcome matrix. At the course level, an assigned outcome matrix. Or at the program performance assessment task level, there's a performance assessment task course assignment matrix. And we saw some samples of all of these throughout the presentation. This document These documents can be produced in Word, HTML, or they're text ready for posting online, for handing to students as part of their packet. for other faculty, adjunct or faculty project teams, program chairs, deans, administration. They can even be part of your accreditation packet. Once all of these documents have been created, and you're going to want to put them somewhere, excuse me, you can store documents in WIDS in a variety of areas. We have a documents area within each of our modules. Organizational area has a store documents area. The program has a place to store documents, and the course module has a place to store documents. You can store documents for your own personal use that no one else can see. You can store documents in here that would be shared by others on the team. Or you can share documents that are called project management documents, which really might be available to anyone who would teach a course or have access to that program and want to see some of the documentation within that folder. So you're able to create your own folders or use default folders and then upload or generate reports right in WIDS and let them pop right into those folders. Once your documents are in a folder, you can even share those documents. Each document has its own unique URL, so you're able to put current matrices, maybe by year, into folders. They might be saved as an Excel spreadsheet, as a Word document, or even as a PDF. And then you're able to share with maybe the future team these current matrices. Each document has its own private URL or public URL, and it doesn't change. If you re-upload or overwrite this particular document with a new document or revised document, it actually keeps the same URL. And the neat part about this is no one has to go dig around in your site. You can give a guest, you can give an adjunct faculty, whomever you choose, that public URL through an email, even through notification within our WIDS system, so that they can just instantly get the document that they need. So your documents are in, all your links are made, the maps are there, and so now you make this plan for your program assessment. And ultimately it's there so that you can examine it and evaluate it and look at the data and how students did on assessments and where things look great or where things need to be improved. And so WIDS also has an area for program improvement. In each of the modules, program and organization, there is an area for assessment planning. And assessment planning is going to be where we looked at the Practicum 2, which is where assessment was occurring for the program instructional assistant. We saw the program outcomes. They were all being assessed here in Practicum 2. I can go and actually look at that course, 131, in the database, pull it up, open it, and actually see that particular project title and actually see the assessment task within there. Once I've opened that course in its own course database, I can actually go and look at that rubric. So all of the pieces are there that I need. So I can see the rubric, I can see where it's assessed, I can see what the assessment is, and then I can even develop a plan for what I want my students to get on that assessment. Maybe a cohort, I want them to get all ones on the rubric. When I generate my rubric, I can store it in my documents. I can use it as part of the program outcomes summary or program outcome project management document. My rubric's going to go in there. Here's the program outcome assessment task. Has directions to the user. It targets all of its program outcomes, and then it includes a scoring guide. And the scoring guide would have the program outcomes, the criteria. It would establish a rating scale, and it would provide values or descriptions for each of those rating values. You're able to choose any rating you want in WIDS and define all of the values as you would like to define them and establish your own scoring standard. So in this case, it's a 210 rating, and students must achieve at least a 1 on all criteria in order to say they successfully met this performance assessment for program outcomes. That information is valuable when you start to create that program assessment plan. Here's that rubric, Program Outcome Assessment. Here are the targeted outcomes in that particular rubric. The standard for student success, as we saw in the scoring standard, was to receive a 1 on all criteria to pass the assessment. And I begin as a project team leader or the person assigned to this plan, putting it together, that 95% of the students will achieve a rating of at least 1. That's my benchmark, that's the goal. And how I aggregate that or collect that data would be up to you or your college. Data aggregation is not something that WIDS does, but we do have the ability to link to documents, to link to things that have been aggregated. Maybe you've stored that in a report, and you can kind of keep those documents over here. You can link those pieces that go with this. You could even put this rubric right here so that you can see everything that's part of your plan. The data collection and analysis details are here. They're evaluated using this rubric, and how you, again, aggregate those scores and what you come up with will be part of your plan and a part of your analysis as well. So your plan's in place, your cohort of students is involved in the program, you implement the assessment task for program outcomes, the assessment task for core abilities, or whatever assessment tasks you require, and then you're ready to analyze the results over time. And that part of the software will allow you to kind of look at how the scores were, the result of the scores, were they met or not met. In this instance, they weren't met. The result analysis summary looked at 25 students. That might have been the cohort for that particular semester, and they took the assessment, and of that number, 20 passed. The program improvement objective would then go back and look at the matrices and see where maybe there's a breakdown. Where did we assess it? Was it in the right place? Maybe we need to look at where we assessed it. Maybe we need to look further at the assessment itself. Maybe we need to look at the courses that also use that assessment. Maybe we need to look at the courses and other assessments within them. And that will help you to begin to establish a way for improvement to occur. What are we going to implement to improve that particular goal? And what interventions will we actually make? Again, we'll go back to that matrix and look at it. Do I need to move assessment a little further up? Maybe it's too soon. Maybe I need to move it further down. That would be a decision for the project team the assessment team to look at and decide, but you have the data here. You have the results, you have the plan, you have the maps in place to be able to see where assessment is occurring and how you're actually measuring it. So that concludes how we outcome map in WIDS. You can see it's pretty robust, it's very complete. There are lots of measures in place, lots of reports that can be generated. You may want to see a little bit more of that, and you may also want to see other solutions that WIDS has. We also can, are a website or web design tool for designing projects, your entire program and courses. You saw some of that program development already. Course development can include building learning plans and assessments for specific targeted competencies. It's a solution to collaborate on project development. You can have a team work on one project, a team that might have permission to and certain roles. And so those are another neat solution, is that it's a place to collaborate on project development. Another solution is, where does all my curriculum go? How do I approve it? Is there a system in place to keep it secure and to approve it in its 5-year rotations? Yes, there is. WIDS has an approval process and system in place that you can use or modify according to whatever your organization's goals or desires are. It's accessible to all who have access. You can create your own directory. We can use Active Directory to put all faculty in so that the curriculum is accessible to anyone in view only. You can archive all the syllabi that might have been submitted. You can approve and expire projects, and your expired projects are then archived, and you can go and look at them at any time. You can look at different site types. Another solution is we offer different kinds of licensing, whether for site or for a team, for a single program or project, or single user just to develop courses. There are different licensing types. We have a repository option where you can collaborate, you can share, store, access curriculum, or as a consortium or a state project or system. And then we also are a consulting, have a consulting arm as a solution. Consulting services at WIDS include curriculum validation, mapping, such as what we saw. Sometimes colleges don't have the manpower or the faculty to do that work, and we often work on a lot of projects with colleges to help them do that mapping and do the alignment of curriculum together. Program assessment might be a piece that you need assistance with. Laddering and stacking credentials, looking at gap analyses and finding where assessment needs to occur or some changes need to be made or content is missing within the scope of an entire course list or project. Project management, and then also training for learning and assessment. Some of the features that I didn't show on WIDS are that it's a unique site. It's your own look. You have your own banner, your own customized look, your own URL, so that your users can access it immediately and will know exactly where they are. They'll have their own homepage. Their name will appear. It'll be their projects. It has user site or project roles, and permissions are granted by site administrators. It's easy access to view everything. It's a great feature. You type in an approved course number or name, and it will appear within the database for someone to open it and view all the curricular components that are available to that person. It has built-in libraries, multiple libraries for support of solid performance-based learning design. It's intuitive and consistent in its navigation. You saw some screenshots of organization, program, and course. Navigation is similar across the top, allowing you to get into those various modules, into the components within each one, and then the individual page items to further develop those out. It has an approval process and system. It has an archiving ability, and we are API. So WIDS does have API and can also work with other maybe your enterprise system or your learning management system with other data fields use the API. And so we're working currently on that data integration piece now, and hopefully we'll have something to share on that soon. So if you'd like more information, please give me a call anytime, 1-800-677-9437, or visit our website at wids.org. Thank you.